My name is Allison Draper, and I'm in my late 20s. I work as a software developer at a mid-sized tech firm tucked just outside the city, a quiet suburb with more coffee shops than nightclubs. Nothing flashy, nothing glamorous, but stable, predictable, safe. That's who I've always been. The kind of woman who shows up, follows through, keeps the world steady, even when life tries to shake things loose. 3 years ago, at a low-key backyard barbecue, I met the man who would eventually break me so cleanly that I didn't recognize myself for months afterward. His name was Philip, and he was the opposite of everything I was. Vibrant, social. The type who could laugh with strangers as if they'd known him for decades. While I gravitated toward routine and quiet, he was a storm of charisma, hands flying when he talked, a voice that filled a room. We clicked fast, too fast maybe, but when you've spent your whole life being the calm one, the anchor, there's something intoxicating about someone who lifts you up in their whirlwind. Back then, Philip was working as an account coordinator for a startup. His work world was all events, networking opportunities to be seen. He told stories that sounded like movie scenes. I told stories about debugging systems at 2 a.m. Somehow it worked, or at least I convinced myself it did. 6 months into dating, everything shifted. Philip's company downsized, and he was one of the first to go. The charismatic man who used to speak in bright colors suddenly dimmed. He tried to hide it, but I saw it in the way he paced the apartment, how he clenched his jaw whenever emails went unanswered. So I stepped in. Quietly. Naturally. I covered our rent without making it a discussion. I told him, we'll get through this together, and I meant it. I took on extra freelance coding gigs late at night to cover groceries, utilities, everything. I paused a promotion that would have required relocating something I'd worked toward for years because Philip said he wasn't ready to leave his network. So I stayed, for him. I thought that was love, but now looking back, I think it was the beginning of losing myself. Philip leaned on me for emotional support too. When his sister went through a chaotic divorce, I was the one who sat with him until dawn. When his mom had a health scare, I drove him to appointments, made soup, handled logistics, listened through his spirals of worry. Through all of it, I never asked for anything in return. But the cracks were there. The first time he compared me to someone else, it was subtle. We were on the couch watching a Netflix show when he scrolled through Instagram, his endless source of validation and envy. Look at this couple, he said, showing me an influencer pair posing at a rooftop party. They're always doing something exciting. Doesn't it make you want more from life? I laughed it off. I wasn't wired for rooftop parties. My excitement was finishing a project on time or finding a new hiking trail. But I noticed the way he looked at that photo, longing almost envy. Over time, the comparisons grew sharper, more pointed. You should try dressing up more, he'd say. Maybe you could be more social like other girls. Life feels monotonous sometimes. Every word chipped a new line into me. And then there was Sabrina, his ex-girlfriend. Flashy, ambitious, all sharp eyeliner and bold lipstick. She worked in marketing and had a reputation for always knowing the right people, the right events, the right way to be seen. Their history was messy, dramatic, off and on for years. I told myself it was over because Philip insisted it was, but the way she appeared in stories he told in parties he attended, in the comments on his posts, it never quite felt over. If I had trusted my gut, then maybe everything would have been different, but I was still the girl trying to hold the foundation steady while everyone else danced on top of it. Fast forward to the night everything imploded. Our mutual friend Marina was hosting a backyard party. Nothing too fancy. String lights, a fire pit, some music, and about 50 people from overlapping social circles. Philip had been talking about it all week. This party is going to be huge, he said. Everyone from work is coming. Sabrina might even drop by. You know how she is with big events. I should have sensed it then, the tension under the surface, but I brushed it aside. Philip liked excitement. I liked him. Sometimes love is that simple in the beginning. We were supposed to go together, but he texted me last minute. Running late, just meet me there, it's easier. I thought nothing of it. I arrived around 8, parked down the street, and walked toward the warm glow of the backyard. Laughter spilled out. Grill smoke curled into the night air. I spotted Philip near the door instantly. He was surrounded by people, animated, bright, magnetic. And right beside him, like a shadow with lipstick, stood Sabrina. Her hand brushed his arm as they laughed at something I couldn't hear. I approached with a smile that felt genuine then, before it cracked. Hey, I said softly. Looks like the party's already rolling. Philip turned to me, and his face changed. Not into joy, not into even simple acknowledgement. No, his smile dropped like I'd ruined the punchline of a joke. He grabbed my wrist lightly and pulled me aside away from the group. Allison, what are you doing here already? He whispered sharply. I told you I'd text when to come. You said meet you here, I replied. Is everything okay? He glanced back at Sabrina and the other's embarrassment, or something uglier, flickering across his face. Look, he hissed under his breath. Don't talk to me at this party, okay? He paused, but the words still hit like a slap. Embarrassing. With your boring job stories and that outfit? God, Allison, it's like you're trying to disappear into the wallpaper. My breath caught. For a moment, the world tunneled. The lights blurred. My chest burned. After everything, this. He kept going, not even aware he was slicing me open. I need space tonight. Sabrina and the team are here, and I can't have you hovering. Just mingle or something. But stay away from me. Years of coding under pressure had taught me how to stay calm externally, even when chaos struck. So I swallowed the shaking inside and nodded. Deal, I said quietly. He smirked like he'd won something. Good. I turned around and walked straight through the gate, through the noise, past the laughter, back into the street. No scene, no confrontation, just leaving with the last of my dignity. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Where did you go? Come back. The party is heating up. I stopped walking, stared at the screen, felt the hurt boil into something clear and cold. My reply was simple. Somewhere I'm not embarrassing. And then I blocked his number. I didn't sleep the night after the party. My apartment felt too quiet, too hollow, like every corner echoed with the memory of things I had tolerated for far too long. I lay on the couch, replaying everything, his tone, his smirk, the word embarrassing, ringing in my head like a cracked bell. By morning, exhaustion had settled over me like a heavy coat, but beneath it was something new. Clarity. Not strength, not yet, but the early shape of it. The tremor before transformation. By noon, I made my decision. While Philip was presumably still asleep or nursing a hangover somewhere, I packed the essentials into 2 suitcases and a backpack. My laptop, clothes, my toothbrush, a few favorite books, a framed photo of me and my dog from years ago. Everything else replaceable. Or better off, left behind. I didn't slam doors. I didn't write notes. I didn't text mutual friends or ask for opinions. I didn't ask Philip for permission to leave the life I helped him build. I simply walked out. The afternoon sun was unforgiving, but it made me feel awake, alive even. I dragged my suitcases to my car, loaded everything in, and drove to a long-term, extended-stay hotel on the edge of downtown. Cheap, functional, a little depressing, but safe. That night, lying on a lumpy mattress, the neon light from the parking lot flickering through the curtains, I let myself cry for the first time, not because I missed him, because I finally stopped lying to myself about who he really was and who I had become while loving him. Over the next few days, I poured myself into the ordinary routines that kept my mind steady. Work, gym, cooking simple meals in the tiny kitchenette, washing dishes by hand. I told colleagues I'd moved for convenience, and they nodded without probing. My life shrank to silence and necessary tasks, and strangely it helped. But the universe rarely lets you heal quietly when someone like Philip is involved. On day 4, Marina, the party host, texted, "Hey, everything okay? Philip said you bailed early." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Just wasn't feeling it. All good. Simple, neutral. No need to feed the rumor mill. She didn't push, but others did. A few days later, my oldest friend, Eva, called. She had that knowing tone in her voice. I saw photos from Marina's party, she said carefully. Sabrina was all over him. I closed my eyes. Yeah, I saw. You deserve better, she said. And he's an idiot. I didn't disagree. But I also didn't have the emotional space to unpack the truth. Sabrina wasn't just an ex-girlfriend. She was the woman Philip turned to whenever he craved excitement, attention, validation. The gravitational pull he never truly escaped. A hurricane he insisted was a summer breeze. So it didn't surprise me when the whispers started circulating through mutual acquaintances. Philip and Sabrina were suddenly hanging out every other night. They were showing up together at events. Someone spotted them at a rooftop lounge with his hand on her waist. She posted a boomerang of 2 wine glasses, clinking captioned, "Good company, good chaos." I told myself it didn't matter, that he could do whatever he wanted because I was finally out. But the truth, it stung. Not because I wanted him back, but because I realized I'd been replaced before I even walked out the door. Still with distance came clarity, a lot of it. Every morning, I woke up a little stronger. I signed up for a certification course I'd been putting off for years. I went to the gym more consistently, nothing intense, just movement to shake the anxiety loose. I read sci-fi books at night instead of scrolling through social feeds looking for signs of betrayal. People underestimate the power of a simple routine. It rebuilds you one quiet moment at a time. 2 weeks in, I found a small studio for rent downtown, big windows, creaky floors, barely enough space for a bed and a desk. Perfect. Mine. Nobody else's name on the lease. Nobody pretending to be embarrassed by me. And yet, Philip lingered like a shadow. Not directly, he was still blocked, but mutual friends filled the silence with updates I never asked for. Have you heard from Philip lately? He and Sabrina are basically inseparable. I think they're seeing each other. She posted a story with his jacket around her shoulders. People like to share other people's heartbreak, even when the person doesn't want the scraps. I stayed polite, non-committal. Hope it works out for them, I'd say. And I meant it. Mostly. Because if they deserved anything, it was each other. Months passed like that quiet, steady rebuilding. My studio filled with new furniture plants I bought impulsively. The sound of late-night rain against the windows while I coded personal projects. I discovered a small coffee shop downstairs that played jazz in the mornings. I joined a local developer meetup and met a few people who understood my jokes without needing translations. One night, the group went out for drinks after a meetup, and I ended up talking with a guy named Marcus, soft-spoken glasses, a little shy. He made me laugh genuinely for the first time in a long while. We grabbed coffee the next weekend. Nothing romantic yet. Just easy conversations, shared interests, and comfortable silences. It reminded me I wasn't broken, just healing. Around this time, the first signs of Philip's perfectly curated world cracking began to surface. It was Marina again texting me one night. Hey, I don't want to stir drama, but I thought you should know. Philip and Sabrina are having blowout fights. At work. In front of people. I didn't reply. I didn't need details. But they kept coming anyway. A coworker of Philip's ran into one of my friends at a bar and apparently unloaded everything. Sabrina accused him of cheating. Philip accused her of flirting with half the office. She threw a drink at him at a work event. Management reprimanded them for unprofessional behavior. Someone overheard him crying in a conference room. Drama, chaos, desperation. Exactly the storm he always chased, and now it was swallowing him whole. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I felt sad. Not for him, but for the version of me who once believed she could fix someone who didn't want to be steady. Still, a small voice inside whispered something I couldn't quite name yet. Something sharp, prophetic. He's going to come back. Because men like Philip always came back. When the excitement faded. When the consequences landed. When they remembered the woman who held them together while they were busy trying to impress the world. He wasn't mine anymore, but his unfinished shadows were already moving toward me. The first attempt came quietly, like a loose thread, tugging at the edge of a sweater. Not a grand apology, not some dramatic gesture, just a whisper through the grapevine that felt too deliberate to be coincidence. It started with Mike, one of Philip's old college friends, who had always been more neutral than loyal. He messaged me on a random Thursday evening. Hey, Allison. Got time for coffee this weekend. Need to talk about something. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity slipped through the cracks of my resolve, so I agreed to meet him at a small cafe near my apartment, a place with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu cluttered with half-erased specials. When Mike arrived, he looked uneasy. He kept fidgeting with the cardboard sleeve of his coffee cup. No small talk, no warm-up. Allison, he finally said, voice low. Philip's not. Doing great. I didn't respond. I just waited, hands wrapped around my mug, steam curling into the air between us. He continued, it's bad. The thing with Sabrina, it's blowing up. I stayed silent, but the words pricked a part of me I wish didn't still exist. The part that had once vowed to take care of Philip through everything. Mike leaned forward. She's cheating on him, apparently with 2 different guys from their marketing team, and she doesn't even hide it. He hesitated before adding, and she's pretty verbally abusive, like humiliating him in public, screaming at him in the office, throwing things. HR has had multiple complaints. A flicker of irony slid through me like a cold breeze. Philip had always said he needed excitement. I wondered if this was what he meant. Mike wasn't done. There was, a scene at a bar last weekend. She slapped him, called him pathetic. Someone recorded it. It made the rounds in their office Slack before HR deleted it. A tiny part of me, deep, quiet, and sharper than guilt, whispered karma never misses a deadline. But I didn't let the satisfaction show. I'm sorry he's going through that, I said softly, neutrally. Mike exhaled, relieved. He's been asking about you. This time the words actually pierced. And about me. Yeah, Mike said. He keeps saying he messed up with you, that he regrets how he treated you, that you were the only real thing he ever had. My jaw tensed so subtly I hoped it didn't show. He, doesn't know how to reach you, since you blocked him. Good, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my tone. It needs to stay that way. Mike nodded slowly. I get it. Just thought you should know. When he left, the air felt different, heavier, charged, like the universe was inhaling before a storm. And I wasn't wrong. The first call came 2 nights later. Unknown number. I nearly let it ring. But something in me, morbid curiosity closure old wounds, made me swipe to answer. I didn't say anything. Allison Phillips' voice cracked through the speaker. For a moment, the sound of his voice pulled at old muscle memory like hearing a familiar song after years of silence. But then I remembered the party, the smirk, the word embarrassing. What do you want, Philip? I asked. He sighed shakily. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you. I waited silent. He swallowed. I miss you. A bitter laugh almost escaped me. You miss stability, I corrected softly. Not me. No, it's not like that, he rushed. Things have been really bad. Sabrina. She's not who I thought she was. She's been cheating, lying, picking fights over nothing. I can't trust her. She's tearing my life apart. I closed my eyes. There it was, the rewriting of history, the subtle attempt to soften his own betrayal. Philip, I said quietly, you chose her. I made a mistake, he insisted. A huge one. You were always there for me. You were God, Allison. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. A younger version of me would have melted. The version who made soup when he was sad. The version who skipped promotions. The version who believed she could be enough for someone who needed the world's applause. But that girl had packed her suitcases weeks ago. I breathed in before saying, calm as a winter morning. That's not my problem anymore. He went silent. I heard at the sharp intake of breath the disbelief. I want to make things right, he whispered. Then respect that I'm not your backup plan. Allison, please. I hung up. Then I blocked that number too. My hands trembled, but not from sadness. From the adrenaline of reclaiming something I had handed away too easily, my self-respect. For a week, the silence returned. But this time it wasn't peaceful, it was anticipatory, like the air before lightning strikes. It didn't take long. The second attempt was uglier. A string of texts from another unknown number. I'm sorry, please talk to me. I need you. Sabrina hit me last night. I don't know what to do. You're the only person who ever cared about me. My stomach twisted not in sympathy, but in recognition. This wasn't love. It was desperation dressed as sentiment. I deleted the messages without replying. Blocked. Again. But Philip wasn't done. Not even close. 2 days later, the toxic reinforcements rolled in. His sister Kara called from her number, a person who had always treated me like a placeholder. Someone Philip would upgrade from eventually. I answered because I didn't recognize the number. Allison, she snapped immediately. What is wrong with you? I blinked. Excuse me. Philip is miserable, she barked. He's falling apart, and you're just... what? Ignoring him. Acting like you're too good for him now. I let the silence speak for me. She continued louder. If you hadn't been so boring, so predictable, he wouldn't have gone looking for excitement. You pushed him away. Ah, there it was. The family narrative. The deflection. The refusal to hold their golden boy accountable. Kara, I said quietly, voice steady as glass. His choices are not my responsibility. You're heartless, she spat. Philip needs you. Talk to him. No. And I hung up. My heart raced, but my resolve didn't bend. I was done being the emotional crutch for people who trampled me every chance they got. Still, I knew deep down that they weren't finished. Not by a long shot. People like Philip never give up once they lose control of their last safety net. But I didn't expect the next move. I didn't expect him to show up on my doorstep. Not yet. Not this soon. Not looking the way he did. I should have known the silence was too fragile to trust. When someone like Philip loses their grip on the version of you they once controlled, they don't fade quietly. They claw their way back into your life like a storm breaking through a cracked window. It happened on a gray Saturday afternoon, the kind where the clouds hang low and the world feels muted. I had just finished reorganizing my tiny studio, folding laundry watering plants, wiping down my small kitchen counter, when a sudden sharp knock rattled my door. 3 quick hits, a pause, then 2 more. Insistent, demanding, uninvited. A cold weight settled in my stomach. No one knocked on my door unannounced. Not here. Not in this building where neighbors minded their own lives. I approached quietly, heart thudding, pressed my eye to the peephole, and froze. Philip! He stood there in the dim hallway, shoulders slumped, hair unkempt, face drawn and haggard. His clothes were wrinkled like he'd slept in them for days. Behind him, slightly off to the side, was Kara, arms crossed, face twisted with irritation, tapping her foot as if she were the one inconvenienced. Fantastic. I cracked the door about 4 inches, just enough to make eye contact, not enough for either of them to push through. "What are you doing here?" I asked flatly. Philip stepped forward instinctively, but the chain on the door pulled taut, stopping him. "Allison," he breathed, his voice hoarse. "Please, can we come in? I need to talk to you." "No," I said immediately. "Say whatever you need to say from there." Kara scoffed loudly. "Seriously, you're going to be dramatic now." I ignored her. Philip rubbed a hand over his face, looking exhausted. "I know showing up is a lot. I get that, but everything's falling apart. Sabrina kicked me out. I've been sleeping on Kara's couch for a week." "Because he let her treat him like garbage," Kara snapped, cutting him off. "You're overreacting, Philip. You just need to get your life together. Talk to her. Fix things." Philip shot her a glare before turning back to me, eyes glassy. "Allison, I'm sorry for everything. I was stupid. I was shallow. I let Sabrina manipulate me. I didn't see what I had until—" I raised a hand, stopping him. "Philip, don't rewrite history. You weren't manipulated. You made choices." He flinched. I know I did. But I regret them. I regret that night. I regret how I spoke to you. I was insecure and cruel," I finished. His jaw trembled. Kara rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please. You act like he committed a crime. It was one party. Get over it already." My gaze slid to her, cold and sharp. "You don't get to define my pain." Kara opened her mouth to retort, but Philip lifted a shaky hand to silence her. He stepped closer, slowly, carefully, until he was as close to the door as the chain allowed. His voice broke as he said, "Allison, I need you. I need the stability you gave me. I need someone who cares." The word need echoed like an alarm bell. Not love, not accountability, not remorse for the months of emotional neglect. Just need. The need for a lifeline, a landing pad, a caretaker. I sucked in a breath. "Philip, you don't miss me. You miss having a soft place to fall." "That's not true," he whispered desperately. "I loved you. I still loved me." I repeated, not mocking, but dissecting. Past tense, Philip. "You loved the version of me who bent my life around yours, who canceled promotions, who covered rent, who absorbed your storms without asking you to face them." His eyes filled with tears. "I can change." "No," I said gently but firmly. "You can't. You want comfort, not change." Kara threw up her hands. "Unbelievable. My brother comes here vulnerable, destroyed, asking for forgiveness, and you're acting like some cold robot." My lips tightened. "Forgiveness doesn't require reunion." "Ugh," she muttered. "You've always been too sensitive. That's your problem." The irony almost made me laugh. Philip grabbed the doorframe as if grounding himself. "Please, Allison, let me in. Just talk to me. You don't understand what Sabrina did to me. She cheated. She lied. She hit me." "And you think I'm the solution?" I asked, feeling an ache somewhere deep inside, an ache not for him, but for the woman I used to be. The woman who would have opened the door without thinking. "Philip, I tried to be your partner. You wanted me to be your foundation while you chased storms." His expression shifted, desperation melting into something darker, something frustrated, something entitled. "You think you're better than me now," he snapped. "Just because you got a tiny apartment and a gym membership?" Kara smirked, approving his sudden spine. There it was, the man underneath the begging. The man who only saw value in me when I was serving him. I met his glare with steady calm. "I think I'm better without you." His breath hitched, half a gasp, half a wounded sound. He looked like someone had punched him. "Allison, don't do this. Don't throw us away." "You threw us away the moment you decided I wasn't good enough to stand beside you." He shook his head wildly. "I was drunk. I was trying to impress people." "And you succeeded," I said softly. "Just not in the way you intended." His voice rose. "I can't lose you." "You already did." A long, cold silence filled the hallway. Kara muttered something under her breath, but for once didn't interrupt. Finally, Philip's face hardened, not angry, not yet, but pride wounded, ego bruised. The shift was unmistakable. "So that's it?" he asked quietly. "You're done?" "Yes." He stared at me like the world had betrayed him, like I had betrayed him, like the consequences of his own behavior were somehow my fault. Then he said the words I knew were coming, the ones people say when they realize they no longer have power over you. "You'll regret this." I didn't even blink. No, Philip. That's your line, not mine. I closed the door, locked it, listened as their footsteps receded down the hallway. Then I let out a long, shuddering breath. Not out of fear, not out of sadness, out of release. Because in that moment, with the door locked between us, I realized something profound. I wasn't healing from Philip anymore. I was healed. But life wasn't done testing me. Not yet. Because the final confrontation, the one that would seal all of this, was still waiting for me. At a wedding, under string lights, with dozens of witnesses, and with the last thread of our story dangling ready to snap. 6 months passed. 6 months of a life rebuilt not in grand gestures or dramatic turning points, but in the quiet consistency of choosing myself every single day. Morning sunlight through my studio windows. Jazz humming softly from the coffee shop downstairs. New routines, new people, new peace. For the first time in years, my life felt like mine. My job was thriving. I'd earned a promotion I didn't have to sacrifice for anyone. My apartment was still tiny, still creaky, still imperfect, but it was my sanctuary. My plants were alive. My savings account was growing. My shoulders no longer hurt from carrying someone else's emotional weight. And most surprising of all, I wasn't afraid of letting new people into my life. By spring, Marcus, the quiet guy from the developer meetup, had become more than a friend. It started with coffee after events, then weekend walks, then slow, easy conversations that didn't feel like performing or surviving. He was considerate, grounded, thoughtful. The opposite of chaos. The opposite of Philip. He never made me feel too quiet or too simple or too steady. He made me feel enough. But the world has a cruel sense of timing. Just when you think you've fully shed your past life hands you a moment to prove it. That moment arrived in the form of a cream-colored envelope with elegant cursive, Marina and Daniel, wedding invitation. My stomach twisted. Marina was our mutual friend, the same friend who'd watched Philip and Sabrina swirl in drama for months. I almost threw the invite away. But Marcus, reading my hesitation, gently touched my arm. "You don't have to go," he said, "but you also don't have to hide." He was right. Avoidance wasn't healing. It was postponing. So I RSVP'd yes. The venue was a garden estate just outside the city. All twinkle lights, white chairs, soft music drifting through the spring air. Marcus offered his arm as we walked in, and I let myself lean into the steadiness of him. I wore a simple, elegant dress, hair curled softly, no flashy colors, no sequins, nothing meant to impress strangers. Just me, comfortable, confident, finally whole. As we found our seats for the cocktail hour, I felt eyes on me, a familiar prickle at the back of my neck. I turned. Philip stood across the lawn. And he looked small. Not physically, he wasn't hunched or sickly, but emotionally. His posture lacked that trademark swagger. His clothes hung slightly loose on him. His hair looked like he'd styled it himself in a rush. And most telling of all, he was alone. No Sabrina. No friend group. No crowd orbiting him like he was the star. Just a lonely man watching someone he used to own walk in glowing. His eyes widened when he recognized me. Shock flickered first. Then something like longing. Then desperation, the kind buried deep, barely held together. I held his gaze for one heartbeat. Then I looked away. Marcus squeezed my hand gently. "You okay?" "I am," I said, and meant it. But Philip wasn't the type to let a moment slip past him. Not when his world had narrowed to regret. 15 minutes later, he appeared beside me, like a grief-shaped shadow. "Allison," he said quietly. His voice cracked around my name. He glanced quickly at Marcus, then back at me. "Can we talk just for a second?" Marcus looked at me. I nodded. "It's fine." He stepped back but stayed within sight, supportive but not intrusive. Philip exhaled shakily. "You look amazing." "Thank you," I replied politely. He swallowed hard. "I didn't expect you to come. Allison. There's so much I need to say. The last few months have been hell. Sabrina..." His voice trailed off, shame coloring his expression. Everything fell apart. I lost my job, my friends, my reputation. It's like karma hit me with a truck. I stayed silent. He continued, eyes glistening. "And I think about that night, the party, what I said to you, how I treated you. I replay it every day. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve any of it." For the first time since the confrontation at my apartment, he sounded sincere. Maybe the fall had stripped him down to something raw and truthful. But sincerity doesn't erase history. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so, so sorry. I want another chance. We were good together. You grounded me. You made me better. I can be better now. Please, Say we can try again. His eyes searched mine, pleading. Across the lawn, a string quartet played something soft. Guests laughed, glasses clinked. The world kept moving, blissfully unaware of the wreckage between us. I took a slow breath. Philip, I said quietly when you told me I was embarrassing. That moment didn't break us. It revealed us. He blinked. I continued, voice steady, clear. You chased excitement, and it cost you everything. Not because excitement is bad, but because you can't build a life on chaos. You can't build love on instability. You wanted someone to admire you, not someone to grow with you. He shook his head. That's not true. It is, I said firmly. And the worst part is, I let myself become small to fit into your world. I dimmed parts of myself so you could shine. He looked stricken. Now, I said, gesturing subtly toward Marcus, who was watching me with quiet patience, I don't have to shrink anymore. Philip followed my gaze. Realization hit his face like a slap. Jealousy, pain, panic. Who is he? Philip rasped. My boyfriend, I answered simply. Philip shut his eyes for a moment, breathing unevenly. Allison, please, don't do this. We had something real. We did, I said. But real doesn't always mean right. But we can fix it. No, I corrected softly. You want what I used to give you. Support, stability, validation. But Philip, I leaned in slightly, voice cool and devastatingly calm. I'm not your safety net anymore. He inhaled sharply like the air had been knocked out of him. I loved you, he whispered. That was the first honest thing he'd said all night. I believe you, I said. But love isn't enough when respect isn't there. His throat bobbed. I straightened my voice, gaining the final necessary edge. You said I was embarrassing. I let the words hang sharp as glass. Turns out chasing excitement embarrassed you more than I ever did. He flinched physically, visibly. And that was it. The last thread snapped. I turned and walked back to Marcus, who silently wrapped an arm around my waist. He didn't ask what Philip said. He didn't need to. Philip watched us walk away, alone, humbled, facing the consequences he created. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt free. Under the warm glow of the garden lights, surrounded by laughter and music, I realized something profound. Healing isn't erasing the past, it's outgrowing it. Philip became part of my story, but he was never meant to stay. And that night, with Marcus's hand in mine,